ERA Global is the place, it's the destination. If you're looking to distribute your product, if you're trying to find a way to scale and get global impact and get global reach for your product, you have to be here. This event can change your life. So don't miss it. Make sure you come here. And guys, come to the show. Don't miss it. This is the place to be. I can tell you for sure and certain, AI is an everyday part of my business. It's part of my business from the data and analytics side of it. It's part of my business from the creative side of it. And the capabilities of what have happened in the last 2 years since we sat at one of these things and said, if you're not accepting it and not leaning into it, you're gonna be left behind. That is still true today, and more true than ever. Now the question is, how fast is it moving, and how's it gonna change dynamically the industry that we all work in? We've seen the effects in creative, we've seen the effects in data and organization, we've seen the effects in analytics. Hell, we've seen the effects in every part of our organization, our business. But I got a good panel up here, a good mix of team. We got Greg Sarnow, who is the founder and CEO of Allegro Response. He got a whistle. How about that? Ed Hull, managing partner of Expert Media Partners. Also, an interesting perspective because he does business not only in the UK, but in Nigeria, and has some pretty good insight. And then David Monero is the Chief AI Officer and General Counsel.
That's right. I moonlight.
Of AI Digital. Yeah, there you go. You got a shout out right there.
Absolutely.
So Greg, I'll start with you because everybody knows you and you've been a leader in this industry for a long time. From where we've already seen the changes in our business from media agency and marketing and advertising agency, the amount of content we're producing that's AI driven, the amount of media decisions that are made through AI analysis. Let's talk about the response metrics and how that's coming to you in your business.
Well, in our business, first of all, the panel is called Mastering AI, right? Always on. And the first thing I would say is that what happens when you go to master this always on, you're dealing with the difference between interest to sales and bringing that down to minutes instead of days. And so if you really want to think about how this affects our business and metrics and KPIs and SLAs, it's quite interesting because so many use cases for AI are there every day. I would say some of the biggest use cases are voice bots for sales, for customer service, for appointment setting, for collections. I'd say and all of these have an amazing impact on KPIs. And there's so many stories that even we have where someone who has abandoned their cart suddenly gets an SMS. And that SMS is telling them, or a WhatsApp message is telling them, hey, you abandoned your cart. All that's automated. And this is having a huge effect on ROAS, Rose.
So Greg, you're dealing with virtual agents, you've got dynamic agent assist, you've got integrations on your analytics side of it. A huge part of your business was in the call center side, right?
Yeah.
Just curious, are there less actual people?
Not yet, but it's coming. The vision I have for my company, believe it or not, is to have a call center that absolutely has no agents, no supervisors, no QA people, and no trainers. And only through AI can I make that happen. And it's not going to happen overnight. Right now, if you look at some of the really, really big companies like Five9 or companies like that, you know how they make their money? They make their money by selling licenses. They're not out of the call center business with agents in any shape, way, or form. What they're looking at is agent assist, like you just mentioned, having AI with every computer having a sound card in it so that they can have, it's amazing actually, so they can have speech to text of every consumer who's calling and asking a question, come in and give the answer right underneath so the live agent can handle it. And this has an amazing effect in terms of the brand and the brand's ability to, the customer has to kind of feel like the person on the other end knows what they're talking about, right? What a concept, right? We've all been thinking about that for a long time, but this helps it. This is agent assist, and this is what some of the bigger companies are kind of looking at now and doing. But this is nothing compared to the agentic AI, which I'm so excited about and love to talk about, because this is the future and it's here now. I'm going to let these guys talk.
So Ed, you've been involved in a couple of businesses along the way.
Yeah, true.
A couple of countries. You've done a few major shifts and impacts over your years. How big is the AI transition and impact, and how's that going to affect the businesses you're involved with globally?
I mean, the impact of AI is reflective of other and bigger changes that are taking place everywhere. It's a key ingredient, and I think one of the dangers of just talking about AI as those two letters is that it ignores how many different parts of your business it has an impact on in different ways. I've only spoken to one company here in the last couple of days who've really gone back and put together decades of data in a way that is easily accessible so they can use AI to interrogate it. If you haven't done that, then you're still a significant period of work away from being able to get the advantages from it, because you can't ask straightforward intelligent questions of your data. You just need to then go back and as we all did 10 years ago, ask who's the best guy in Excel in the office. If you're still doing that, then what on earth are you doing? So there's that kind of look back element, but then you've also got the shift in behavior. So almost all of our customers now are on social media, and we all have strategies of different ways in which we're trying to reach them, but not many of us are using that as our way of speaking to them. And outbound email is something I think is a really interesting example of where this shift in behavior and where AI is in something able to enable something extraordinary, because almost everybody's outbound emails are do not reply at, whatever you call it. And what other way does anyone talk to their customer in that manner? It's extraordinary. You're literally shouting at your customer with your fingers in your ears. Who does that now in any other thing except email? It's hardly surprised that email response rates are declining and will be dead. But if you look at younger people and the teenagers of today, by the time they're 30, email will be dead as a communication tool. All the communication tool will go through the various apps and environments in which they're otherwise communicating. So if you're not using that to talk to all your customers individually, then you're talking to them in old. You might as well write in hieroglyphs and send them a piece of stone. That's so you need to be talking to them all. But the moment you want to talk to them all individually, you now have a massive problem, which is what Greg's talking about, because how do you talk to 1 million people in one-to-one conversations? Well, there is only one way to do that, and that's to implement AI. So as you get your customers onto WhatsApp or Instagram chat or TikTok chat, wherever you want to talk to your customers on all of those platforms, if you're not using AI to talk to them so you can have personalized conversations with them, then you're missing a trick. And we do this in Nigeria, but we give them always an option to talk to one of our call center people. So if you want to have them, but by talk I don't mean speaking to them, they're just having that one-on-one chat. So people will flip between, I think you used the phrase sort of hot swap yesterday in this context, Andy, but people are appreciative of things that are quicker in closing sales. QVC discovered that 15 years ago at the beginning of the web, that quite a lot of people would see it as a benefit to be able to press the buttons on their phone to close the sale and not have to talk to someone once they'd registered. And there's a lot of that, I think, still to be explored in AI solutions. But yeah, if you want to have that direct one-on-one relationship with your customer instead of shouting at them with an email, then you need to embrace AI, because you can't have 10,000 simultaneous conversations with a real person.
So, indeed, right on point, man. David, coming to you on this side of it. Now, here's the funny part. Your company name actually has AI in the name. So, and your title, Chief AI Officer. Tell us a little bit about the background of what and the way you guys are thinking about integration of AI across your company standpoint, and then how important it is from an outlook part of any company, really, of anybody here.
Yeah, I mean, AI is certainly here now, or I wouldn't have a job at an AI company with a title like Chief AI Officer. What we do is we're a digital and programmatic media partner, so we help to deliver ads on any type of screen with hyper-personalization to reach whatever target audiences you want. And in working with advertisers and agencies who are tasked with that, we have a lot of ancillary tasks kind of as an operating partner to support that end goal, whether that means helping with the audience targeting, the research, the strategy and planning that goes into it, sometimes the creative work that goes into it, and an auxiliary role to our agency or advertiser partners. And to do all that, basically what I described is a lot of work that is not the core service that we actually provide, but it's necessary in order to perform that service well. As we've scaled, it's been a necessary fact of our scale that we need to leverage technology, and particularly AI, to do this type of personalization at scale, this type of research at scale, and writing and creative generation. So our business wouldn't have been able to grow over the past couple of years without this, unless we were to hire 1,600 additional people, which who knows if the skill sets would have existed for us to hire and train those people at the right pace. So the way that I think of AI adoption now is that we all generally agree with this idea that we have AI ambitions, right? We know AI will be transformational. Some of us are feeling it and delivering and executing on it in our own businesses. But generally, there's not much disagreement with the idea that AI is a transformational technology. But a lot of people kind of leave it at that. And they're like, okay, well, we'll catch up when some killer app comes out, or there's an easy button for me to press that revolutionizes my business. That's not coming anytime soon. And there's no instruction manual that comes out with the latest ChatGPT model or Claude or Gemini model. Even the people who make those models, the researchers that get paid seemingly $250 million a year by Meta, they don't know. They don't know what it's capable of. And when you couple that with the fact that no one knows your business better than you, the idiosyncrasies and unique angle and nuances of your business, no one's going to tell you how to make AI happen in your business, which means that AI fundamentally is a leadership challenge. You have to usher your organization and your people through this moment of profound technological change, where technology is falling out of the sky into our laps, and the curve of progress of technology is asymptotic up and to the right, and organizational adoption is slow and steady. But that gap between those two lines that I've oddly made with my hands, that's your opportunity zone, and you have to step into it. You have to do it actively. You have to try and likely fail many times, just like when you were probably starting your company or starting a new initiative there. And if you don't do that, I think it's quite evident that the gap between winners and losers in AI is going to dramatically continue to widen. They might look like nearly parallel lines right now, but as you zoom out over time, that's going to be quite a chasm to bridge. So the way that I think about AI adoption now is that there are really three elements or three key tenets of AI adoption. Or AI advantage. And people think of this in terms of a moat. I like to say that agility is the new moat. And so if you think of it, speed, so agility, data, which has been spoken about already, and brand, the way you connect with your customers. And you talked about this in terms of how you'd message to them. There are many different ways this can happen, depending on an ad format or the outreach format, whether it's marketing or sales. But I believe that the traditional funnel, as we think of it, of awareness, consideration, down to conversion, it's collapsed already. Now, it's going to persist for a while, but we need to think about a new framework. I know, Andy, you said you were at HubSpot's Inbound conference, and they have a whole new funnel, which I think is like express, tailor, amplify, and evolve, or something along those lines. And it's a loop framework. And the idea that undergirds is that commerce is completely going to change. You are going to have ads and new ad formats that arise that do the selling for you. We talked about abandoned carts and things. I think there is a near future where the reality of science is kind of is outpacing the imagination of science fiction. You're going to walk by ads that say like, David, nice shoes, but where are your socks? And show you an ad for Bombas socks or something. The same way that you used to get that with an abandoned cart email or SMS.
Look, I think you hit on a really good point, and I think the key to this, and when my mind first woke up to how AI was going to affect my business, I told you guys this on stage before. I went back to my office and said, you guys pulled the team together and said, you have 5 minutes, or you have 5 days to tell me how AI is going to affect your portion of the business, or you should probably get another job. Because if you're not thinking in that way, you probably don't need to be part of this company. So now, when we talked earlier, we talked about the top-down method, and then we also found the bottom-up method, where the challenge most of us face as leaders in adopting AI in our systems is that we have these processes that are put in place that are difficult to unravel because it's the way we've always done it. It's the way it's done. It's a linear process in many situations. There's steps along the way. But when you step back from it and start to look at the AI tools as they develop and you start to progress forward, the whole process may not be the same. It may not be there. You have the question of whether you're automating or creating functional AI that's going to drive you forward. So, from our world and what we saw in our patterns is we had to disrupt. We had to create different teams, even inside the organization, that were willing to not be constricted. So I think that's a huge, huge challenge and a factor for all of us as business owners and leaders is can you reach that point? So David, from you guys' perspective, I mean, you've got a lot of experience in disrupting in certain spaces. I think you did some in the legal industry. How have you overcome some of that fear of adoption?
A lot of it is a leadership challenge. There's a professor from Wharton, Ethan Mollick, who I think is the smartest voice on AI, and he's not a coder or a technologist himself. And he has this framework called the best available human standard, which is a way to evaluate kind of always bringing AI to the table and trying it and using it for different tasks and you don't know whether you're going to succeed or fail with. And the standard is basically, every word of that standard is important. It is the best available AI at any point better for you than the best available human at any given point? So it's like, well, for this data analysis task, would I prefer a Harvard PhD to do this and data science? Well, maybe, but is that person available? No. I have David here, and David's going to use the AI. And so the answer is probably that AI is the best available tool for me at any given moment. And so not to anthropomorphize AI so much, but if you think of it, and we were talking about this earlier as part of the leadership challenge, a lot of people feel a generational gap. And the same way we looked at like TikTok and certain social media trends and be like, oh, the 20-year-old in my office understands this, so they're going to be the social media coordinator now. That's not how AI is going to work, and it doesn't need to be that way because the same tenets that make you an effective manager or leader of humans, being able to give effective feedback, saying why something's good or not good, and what needs to change about it, you're a great operator of AI if you can do those things, and so all you need to do is try.
Ed, I see you nodding there.
Yeah.
So.
No, I think that's really interesting because the last time I was speaking about this, there was a big conversation about people losing their jobs, and it was in that context that we were speaking.
People are going to lose their jobs.
Well, yeah,
or
change.
But
the point there, and I kind of made the comparison, which was really interesting that you did there, that when we first had web sales 20 years ago as a driving part of this business, a new part of this industry, there was very much a case of, yeah, well, my son's friend is really good at this stuff and he'll come into the office and do it because he understands it. And for creating something as straightforward as your first transactional website, that kind of worked and was often true. But for what AI does for your business, it isn't true, because it's all about the questions that you ask and how you structure the questions. And so that smart 21-year-old might understand coding and might be able to build very complex models, but the key to making this technology work for you is to use the experience and the knowledge that you have of your business and your products and your sales process and why things work and why things fail, and to build the really complex prompts, the questions that you're asking AI to deliver. So yes, you need to structure your data properly, yes, you need to think it through properly, but the only person that can really do that is the person that really understands what it is that you do and what you want to get out of it. And I see people writing kind of 1 or 2 sentence prompts on ChatGPT and expecting to get a Harvard Business School answer from it. Well, you're not going to do that. My own prompt for ChatGPT to write in my voice is about 600 words long, and that's just telling it how to write like me and not like ChatGPT, let alone beginning to ask a question in any detail. So, the only person that can tell ChatGPT to write like me is me, which is why I can send you all marketing emails that sound like I wrote them.
He wrote none of them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think it's really important that we all understand that unless the person who has the most experience in your business or in the function that you're trying to improve is the person that's driving the question, you're not going to get the right answer.
I think there's a point in here that I think you're dead on. If you don't give it the right information, you haven't properly set up your data. Mind you, you can feed, and we talked about this earlier, you can feed random data into it and get an output. But is it the right data? Are you asking the right questions? For us, we took a step back and we said, okay, first step, reorganize all of our data sets. What's our tech stack look like? How can I make my data accessible? How do I take it from all these disparate points in my world and get it into one place? So I can ask Blue to analyze my data and give me answers and give me predictive. I think there's 2 key points in here. One, you were talking about the change in the model, the way you think about it. From an AI model, you have to think about optimization loops, and you have to think about it learning along the way. It's giving information, it's getting inputs about your sales, it's getting inputs about all of your pieces and parts that are coming in, your media expenses, where you're buying, where your social media engagement is, where all those pieces are. And if you give it enough of that information, then it can analyze and tell you that you have the respondents in a certain way, and then can eventually, the goal for us is get that predictive output, which we're getting, and then actually take action on the predictive output of have it create the prompt that then feeds into the creative. And then the creative output keeps circling. And if you can do that, the speed of optimization loops is where the real opportunity is. And I like the way you see that disparity between opportunity, because where he's right is there's a lot of companies that are not adapting at all. They'll eventually come along to it, or they will go away. The same thing, like if you're not using the internet right now, that would be crazy, right? That'd be insane. If you're not using a phone, that would be insane, right? It's the same thing. It would be insane. It's like you're not using electricity when it's sitting there in front of you. So I think the next place, and I think I'd love to hear from Greg, like on how in the call center space and how you start to see, and even beyond that too, how you start to see that adaptive piece coming into your business, because you capture a lot of information and a lot of engagements. How does AI play in the future of that engagement?
Right. I think one of the tech speak sentences, phrases that's used all the time is the phrase human in the loop. And if you're in the technology world, you know that. And I've had 2 gentlemen here really speak very, very well about this idea that I have trainers in my company who've been training agents for years. and they are using the same knowledge, techniques, and information to create a training bot for our company. Now, when we make a sales bot, just in terms of content and context, one of our prompts for a sales bot is about 17 pages long. So I'm not saying that anyone is going to do that or something like that, but what I am trying to say is that it is the expertise of every individual in my company, and the challenge of saying, how do we create a workflow process, and how do we AIify it? We call it AIify it.
Yeah.
It's kind of a very kind of slang word,
It's a
right?
nice name for a business. But.
And what we do is
Somebody buy that.com.
we create quadrants. We create these quadrants to tell us where to put our attention. What are the things that really annoy us incredibly to do? We just hate doing it. And what are the things that are very, very repeatable, very much data-driven? And we think of workflow process, and we think, what part of that workflow process can we actually, use AI to do easier? An example, payroll. I have 120 employees. It's a lot of payroll. I have one person who for years has spent 2 days a week doing the payroll, because we pay people every week. Soon it's down now to about 6 hours, and soon it's going to be down to about an hour, because that person has the expertise. And with that expertise and with AI, we're able to do that. So for us, it's always about thinking about what are the right things to put our attention on for AI,
Yeah,
and how do we do that? And oftentimes it really works, especially with building bots, and well, probably especially with everything, on that human in the loop part. Because if a company is a technology company, they're basically going to tell you the technology is the answer to everything. And it's not. It's a combination of technology and human in the loop that's going to create the magic.
I think there's a few things and I think the engagement that we start to see first is, one, you look at historical ways at which you're doing things, and you start to look to automation. And I think there's some confusion between automation and AI and the functionality to it, right? In our organization, we look at it and we say, okay, it's automation. It can also be AI automation, but does it have to be? There's some things that are just repetitive processes that
Just
need
parts
to
of
occur.
it, parts of the
Yeah,
parts of a process.
Yes,
And
parts
the
of the
process can be AIified.
Yes, parts of the process can absolutely be AIified. So I think the one is you got to start stepping back from it from a second and say, like, if you were first coming to this, and I throw this to David, if someone's first coming to this concept and they're now going, okay, I just woke up, I came out of the cave, the lights are on, AI exists. What do I do first? Is it, what are my first steps, and what do I need to do to be ready?
It's funny, I have a slide that's fashioned like a prescription pack with the RX on the bottom, and so it's your AI prescription pack. And so if you truly are starting from scratch, I would say for at least a week, you invite AI to the table for absolutely everything you do. And it'll be a nuisance. It'll not be, I'm not promising you time savings. You'll spend more time doing it on many tasks. But what that looks like is you have it downloaded on your phone, you have your phone next to you or iPad, you have a window up on your computer. If you have a second screen, it's on the other screen or on the side of your screen. And every time you go to write an email, you go to write something, maybe you prefer to use the voice mode, you press, I have it on a shortcut on the bottom right of my phone. I press that instead of the flashlight that always goes off in my pocket. And I just talk to the AI sometimes, like driving in the car or wherever. And it feels very weird, but you'll very soon start to get a feel for the types of things it can do. Instead of just helping you generate copy, you say, here's what I'm thinking about a strategy. Can you give me some feedback? What are some logical pitfalls in the way I'm thinking? there are really just infinite amounts of ways that you can use it. The same way you would use leverage on any idea or any employee that you have. One of the ways that I like to use it is it's not an efficiency thing. I'm very picky about the way I write sometimes. So, and this probably comes from my training as a lawyer. I'll write something, it'll be good enough, but right when I draft it, and I'll look at it and be like, yeah, I don't like the way I phrased that. And I used to sit there and stare at the screen and pore over it for like 45 minutes until I got it the perfect way that I wanted it, that I felt good about it, which is satisfying, but what an enormous waste of time. And now I tell AI, yeah, I don't really like that. I want, give me 50 different versions. And I put zero thought into it. It gives me 50 versions instantly. I like number 3, 7, and 12, but I need a little bit more, I need it punchier. I need this, and here's what I'm going for. Here's 5 more options. I like 3 and 2. Put it together. And it comes out with something that is better than I would have gotten to. And to be able to do that, you can do that with creative generation. It's not just writing or copy, but writing or copy is something everyone does. Writing emails, communications, changing the tone. Doing that's the first prescription, is just invite AI to the table for everything. The other thing I would say organizationally is you need to paint a positive vision of the future, not just sound the alarm like AI's coming, all your jobs are toast. Thinking about how you frame this to people so that they're incentivized, because I promise you everyone's using ChatGPT, even if they're telling you they're not, and even if your privacy policy says they shouldn't. You need to bring it out into the open, and you need to reward people for innovations and AI-ifying things that they may have already done to their work so that they could go watch TV for 2 hours in the day. That needs to come to the organization's bottom line, not just be a personal productivity tool. So setting up structures where you can capture and scale the innovations and kind of crowdsource that knowledge from the people who do these tasks every day and have this kind of tribal knowledge sitting in their heads, you need to extract that and get it into processes to become some of the data and processes you rely on.
I like to think of it from a standpoint of like you're actually freeing their capability and their time. Because a lot of if you can do it faster, and I was listening to a talk the other day and it's like, well, you can spin up, you can be rich and be successful, you can work harder and be successful, you can be an expert and be successful, or you can just be faster than everybody else. You can be fastest to market, you can be fastest to adaptation, and I think it's relative, very relative here. So, in our perspective, we've been the same, like engage with it now, and I did take the scare tactic 2 years ago, and then but I needed to do it to shock the system for a minute, long enough that everybody realized that it was at risk. Since then, we've adopted multiple levels of AI tools across the company. Like, we don't have a voiceover person ever anymore, ever. It's Ricky. Ricky reads it. Ricky sometimes is a woman. Ricky sometimes is a 65-year-old man. Ricky sometimes is from the South. Ricky is sometimes Spanish. It doesn't, like, the capabilities that you start to, and once you get them to adopt, now it starts to move. And then you can start to move through things. Like, literally, just recently, we had a pitch that we were going on. We're like, okay, let's get the storyboards ready. No, let's not get the storyboards ready. Let's make the entire spot in AI and deliver it as the pitch. Yes, are we going to reshoot it? Are we going to modify it? Are we going to manipulate it and make it better? But the output was probably 85% of what it could be to go to air. Yeah. Now, when you're starting to hit those moments of movement, that's where the excitement really starts to happen. And if you're not having disruptors inside your organization that are doing it at every level, that's the hard part of the process.
One quick word there is rapid prototyping. This is exactly where the world is going, and this is exactly why AI is so incredible. And look, I have a friend from Florida. He had a tool company, and he was very successful in his tool company because he did rapid prototyping, took the prototypes to Home Depot, and bam, got the business. And rapid prototyping technology is very valuable. And it's exactly what he's saying, it's what we do. When someone asks us to build a bot for them, we build a prototype. and we build a prototype to impress them and go, oh yeah, you got it. We know you know how to do it now. We're ready to move forward. And then we do the hard work, So I just want to say that because it's exactly what we're doing, and a lot of people do.
I was going to share a secret, really, that the biggest obstacle to this, in my experience with businesses that we work with, is the IT department, is the CTO. So the person, and it's often the case, isn't it, in businesses, where you're going to make a change, the person who's closest to the status quo is the person who is most resistant to the change because they're vulnerable. And we've seen it with some huge companies, where the biggest resistance is where the data is currently held, where the data is currently managed, where those processes are run, where your sales CRM is sitting. That's where the resistance comes from. And the genius moment about this moment in time is that you as leaders or as marketeers or as CEOs or chief AI officers can radically change that, because it's accessible with some thinking, with some help, with some very valuable consultancy. But it's possible to shortcut that, because if your response to this, because it sounds tech, is to go and talk to your CTO or the head of IT, the chances are you're going to get a lot of resistance and pushback, and it needs leadership above that, or from marketing, to make this stuff happen.
But it has to be at the core too, and I think some of it is, and you led right to the next question, which was about data readiness, right? It has to be not only from leadership, but it has to be in each of your departmental areas have to be addressing it and approaching it, because to your point, the experts in those areas need to use it, and if you're enabling them to free their time, imagine how much more productivity you can get. However, the productivity for them may be, and we talked about it, might be playing golf more, might be watching a little more TV, maybe spending a little more time on social media because they freed up their time, right? What you have to think about it from an organizational standpoint is, are you setting it up to go in the right direction?
But there's a little guy in the corner of your office chaining himself to his rack of boxes who won't let you near it. That's where it comes.
So, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's not only IT, it's legal departments as well, and that's the space I came from. And thankfully at AI Digital, I moonlight as general counsel, so I get to turn the Department of No into the Department of Yes. But at particularly these large Fortune 500 companies, legal was just incredibly reticent to allow anything, both because of all the data privacy regimes, GDPR, all the follow-ups to that, and the state privacy regimes here. Legal is actually coming on board, but IT, you're right, is a bottleneck, because historically any technological change they've wanted to own. It's like, so in a big company, it's very important, like, who's the product owner? Who owns the CRM at a company? Who owns the data there? That's managed by the IT team, by the sales team, by marketing? Who owns that, or where does that responsibility sit? And this is really just a matter of corporate bureaucracy. It's not like a legal privacy issue. There are some concerns it touches on, but IT, we talked about this not just being a technology moment. IT is not like, you're not going to go to your tech guy and figure out AI. That knowledge sits with business proximity in each department that has to implement it, and then across those departmental boundaries. So if people are looking to IT to solve something, yes, they can help you select, between certain tools or cloud software, whatever, on-premise setup, but they are not the ones who are going to be at the vanguard of change here. You need to be.
I think it's an interesting process for us, and you're absolutely right. You have to be in each of those areas, and then you have to have empowerment of engagement, right? Our rule is, okay, how you want to try a new AI tool, try it. Like, try them all. Keep trying them. You have unlimited budget to try as much AI tools as you want to try. Go for it. That became, big changes for us, right? But I think the great challenge again is the disruption in each of the departments and the resistance that you face inside there. But you have to, as leaders, kind of push that out of the way. One of the big points, and we only have a little bit of time left, that I want to get to is the data readiness and how you prepare yourself. Because if you don't have everything in the right place, you're not going to have the right function and the goals you want to get out of it, right? Until you've organized the data and compiled it in some way that it's accessible. So analyze your tech stack, analyze your CRM, analyze the tools that you're using that are creating the integrations, across your system. So your data is being shared in a very real and valid way, and it's being shared instantly. Like from the retail world, our absolute best AI analysis and information comes out when I have the point of sale data from the retailer, when I have all of the Amazon data, all the marketplace data, all the e-com data, all the social data, all the creative, all the media data, all living in one place, because then I've given it the information that it can clean it, organize it, and tell me what to do, and give me insights that move faster. And even if those insights are just like, here's an idea you should think about, and we go, yeah, fuck that AI, you didn't know what was right. Like, you were wrong, you don't understand. I need to tell you what I really want you to give me. That kind of interaction, I think, is the next piece. So without the right data foundations, you're in trouble.
Well, for us, it's half the AI world is integrations. Because every client I have, just about everyone, I mean, a lot of them use Shopify, and there's kind of like the one place there, everything's the same. Otherwise, everyone has so many different platforms that we have to integrate into in order to give the right information back to the client about, oh, was this order taken by a human? Was this order taken by AI? Are they both combined together to get us a CPO for that particular network or whatever? Everything that we know and live by, it has to be integrated in disparate sources. And with that information, the BI tools that we have, our company, we happen to use a lot of Amazon, and it's crazy how advanced Amazon is, and I'm talking about AWS, I'm not talking about Amazon the TV that we do on our when we buy things from Amazon. But I think these are the kind of things that you guys probably would talk about too, better than me.
You made me think of a specific example actually of a substantial live channel that we worked with, who, for historical reasons of the way that their businesses were introduced, had a database of all of their, or a CRM of all of their TV customers, i.e. ones who come through the call center, and all their web customers were on a different database. And this is a recent story. And these two pieces of data have never been merged. And they had no idea what proportion were the same. I mean, they tested the databases from time to time to try and get some analysis, but the two had never been merged. And the job of putting that together as one piece of data to learn about those customers and actually see a genuine history of an individual customer, and then obviously start to learn from that, was relatively straightforward process to do once you've got AI to do it, because this is a large database. And only then could you start to, and that came out of us in there as consultants on the jobs, trying to say, right, can you tell me who were all of your customers over the last 10 years in the 6 weeks before Christmas? Right, so that's what I want to know, and then analyze what they bought so we can create marketing around that in the run up to Christmas, so you can guess when this was last year. And so
you mean actionable intelligence? For
right, so okay,
files?
so who let's find out who are your most valuable pre-Christmas customers, what did they buy, and let's create marketing around that. Very straightforward question. And it turned out that you couldn't do that. Well, you could do it, but you'd have to do it twice, because there was one web database and one TV sales database, and they weren't deduped. So you're going to get the same records and the same person who you're now going to market twice, which then makes you look stupid with outbound emails that they can't reply to.
So I'm curious whether you built whether it was an AI bot analyzing one database and an AI bot analyzing another database to feed it into it. Because sometimes we look at it as compartmentalized, right? We'll look at it and say, okay, I need it. I don't necessarily need to change my core technology. I just need to integrate it and have.
And AI is such a great tool for doing that process.
And it also affects the speed. And I'd love to hear your take on this too, David. It affects the speed, the way your architecture of your AI integrations come in line. Sometimes it's better to have more touch points.
Yeah. And I'll come back to that point in a moment. I just wanted to add that everything you described, theoretically you could export as both databases as a CSV, put them together, clean them all up. It's a gargantuan task that someone needs to be very good with Excel or SQL databases, or like they need to be able to query that. And you could get the type of information you're asking for with older generation technology. What's crucial here is not that AI has made something happen that previously wasn't possible, it's just made it so accessible. I couldn't do, like maybe I could watch YouTube videos for weeks to figure out how to do that, and then it would take me longer to actually do it, rather than going to an Excel jockey to do it. But I could literally download those 2 CSV files, plop them into an AI tool with a proper context window, and just say, okay, I'm gonna ask the questions now, and it's done. So it gives everyone, it empowers a generalist, someone who has the business proximity and the view across different disciplines, to be very, very powerful, whereas they would have had to rely on external consultants or contractors or a bevy of employees to be able to prepare that type of information to surface it for a decision point, like what should we advertise in the 6 months or weeks before Christmas, not months, that would be a lot of time before Christmas. But to your point about segmenting to different touch points, right now with AI integrations, model context protocol is a hot term, but really it's like APIing into the right context. So if you want to have it read your Slack or your Gmail or access your calendar, or maybe you keep things in Dropbox or Drive and you want to tell your ChatGPT to search it, it's just like mine is just too much information. It's not going to do that. And with only like a 50,000 or 200,000 token limit on a ChatGPT, I'm not sure what it is right now, on each chat, even in the paid version, you can't search that much information effectively. So to be able to parcel it out and segment it out such that you're not, you could put kind of a super powered AI with a supercomputer, or spend like thousands and thousands of dollars on API fees with OpenAI to try to reason over all of it. It would just take longer, be more expensive, and it's not necessary. You don't want to, you want to be able to while AI can help you clean up your data, you also don't want to fully rely on it to do that. You want to be able to segment these things so that you can say in your 17-page, instruction for a call center agent, this is the information you rely on. You're allowed to search the internet or these files for these 3 or 4 things to narrowly constrain what it can use. Otherwise, you're just sending it, to your whole hard drive, and it's like an Apple Spotlight feature. It's like you see how well that works, and that's machine learning based. But you need to be able to feed it, even with Gemini, which has I think 1 million token context window, and everyone says, okay, well that means you could put a whole book in it. It's like, great, on the first chat, but then when you have 10 questions later and it's shoving those tokens through every time, you notice the chat starts to get much dumber if you don't open a new window. So context window management is crucial to any kind of custom application building, at least for now, while there is still real cost to these models, but eventually, 3-4 years, it might be the case that they're so cheap it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we faced here's a real learning moment. We decided all the data needed to be in one set of database, right? All of it. It's too much data for it to access and query and answer the question. That's why I asked the question, because we ended up breaking it into, okay, I need to answer these questions faster. So I need this bot answering these questions, this bot answering these questions, this bot asking the questions to be answered, so you can organize it in a way and get to the answer faster. Because if you're trying to say, hey, look at the entire internet and tell me the greatest products that have ever been sold in the history of time since the beginning of the internet, and giving it no category or whatnot, forget about it. You're just going to end up in an endless death trap of trying to redirect, but you have to give it some context. So I want to open the floor to anybody with questions, because we've got some pretty smart people up here, and I want to just make sure everybody has a chance if they have any questions. Go ahead.
David. Yes. Fantastic job, by the way. With your 400 or so employees at AI Digital, which one is the best one that's here with you now?
I did say I have the ChatGPT that replaced the flashlight app on my phone, so I'd have to go with that. Best available human standard.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good. Look, guys, these types of sessions are where we want to continue to go as an organization. These deeper dives. We hope in the coming events coming up that we continue to have even more breakouts and even more detailed breakouts to where there are more working sessions, so we can really get in detail. But hopefully, you guys have gained some knowledge or some information out of this that's of value, and that you're thinking. If anything, the goal of this is to open your mind to say, I have to take action in some way, shape, or form. And go ahead.
What's the best and worst AI that each of you use? Like, if you could pick.
The question is, what's the best and worst AI that each of you use?
Of like a specialized tool, or just of the general chatbots?
For your job, or for your company. Like, I love this.
I would say, I mean, the most impressive to me is probably the video generation, just because it's like beyond the realm of anything I could do, and I think VO3 is incredibly impressive with that. But I would say the best general purpose tool I use would be I use like Claude Max on extended thinking mode in the Opus model, because it does something that I'm not good at visualizing or making infographics or illustrating concepts. And so while I don't think it's actually the best general chatbot, it just codes like beautiful pages for me in React that I could then send to our slide designer and say, like, can you make something that looks like that but prettier? And it works very well.
So my standard go-to is, I'm afraid, ChatGPT, which I do use, although I do find myself going back a generation, a version from time to time when I start getting a lot of nonsense out of it, which does happen, particularly with code. For some of the database stuff, Domo is a tool that we've used with quite a lot of success.
I think I can say the best. I don't know if I can say the worst. Novasonic from Bedrock with AWS, something we use a lot of, and love it. We're doing a lot of things that are both combination of open source and closed source, because we live in a world of leapfrogging technology. Whether it's Claude today, which of course I agree with too, is probably one of the best, especially for writing, maybe not for data, but I mean, XAI is probably the best for legal. I don't know if you use it for legal.
I like ChatGPT for legal, but they're
I mean,
potato.
But I mean, yeah. The thing is there's so many different things that have specifics based on what you're doing, right? And that could end up being what makes our answers. You know, for me, when I think about what's the worst, I think it was one of the first things I did 3 years ago when I decided I was going to get into the technology part of the business, and I wanted to, you know, meet some people who did chatbots, and they were in India, and what they did was completely 100% useless.
You fell into the chatbot trap. Yeah. Was she pretty?
Gorgeous.
But we're back on automation versus AI, aren't we?
But I mean, the thing is that I think our answers are driven by the fact that we have different use cases that are important to us. I think the interesting thing here is that the quantity of use cases is incredible. And every day, every week, I get someone calling me and saying, can AI do this for us in our world? And sometimes I'm just scratching my head and going, my gosh, it could.
Yeah, it can do anything at this point. My belief at this point, it's wide open. For us, it's been we've explored the video tools deeply, and we are constantly, every time a new one drops, we're in it. But definitely the video is by far crushing everything out there right now, and I cannot wait for the next drop of the next release, because it is unbelievable. But we've run through all of them. Like every time there's a new solution out, we're testing it, we're validating the video quality and the learning speed of what it's gaining in the video side of it, and the capability to create. I'm looking forward to longer chunks of time being able to be produced in it. I'm absolutely looking forward to the point of where I can go back into ChatGPT, write the script for the docu-series or the movie that I want to do, feed those prompts directly back in on the other side of it, create all the reenactments that I need that are about the story that we have, and allow it just to create And I don't think that's more than a year away, to be honest with you. Like the progression that it's at right now is unbelievable. Then secondly, ChatGPT is definitely my absolute 100% go-to every day of my life. I wake up with ChatGPT, we have a nice relationship. We talk about every idea that I have. It knows way more about me and every single idea I've thought about than probably anybody in the world. And shh, don't tell my secrets. She's in there.
But this is a great question, Adam. I mean, it depends also if you're a developer or if you're a user. I mean, like Coda, I don't know how many of you know Coda. It's a great company. You need to have a little ability to do some coding if you use Coda. But great company, great programs, great things that you can do.
Here's the truth. My favorite's the one I'm going to find tomorrow, because it's like that. I mean, it is literally like that. When we were at Inbound and HubSpot, oh my God, like walk the floor, like full process call agents, appointment setters, ready to go with full tech capability to outreach, set the appointment, hot swap or warm transfer right to my sales guys, like there. So from a lead gen side, when we look at it and go, hey, I'm doing home services lead gen and I'm pulling that in, yeah, I'm pulling that in right in, having the process, the questions, the answers, qualifications before it ever gets to my guys. So now I need less guys to close the deal because my information's better. And oh, by the way, that's also integrated back to my CRM that's loaded in. So if they don't close right then, if they leave on the hot swap, I've sent them an offer on the backside of that already is customized to them, is already in relationship to them. That level of like functionality to actually cause the transaction to happen, to convert, is the most exciting part for me. There's plenty out there. There's probably 30 tools right now that can launch a product right now that I can feed the information in, and within 20 minutes, I've got a full website. I've got 10 ebooks about the topic. I've got the next 3 months of social media posts produced and ready to go. That's the level of like, wait till next year when we're sitting here again and we're talking about this again, and just mark this day and know the progression that's going to happen in the next 12 months. Astronomical. So I want to thank the panel. I want to thank all of you guys for sticking with us a little bit longer. These guys have been great. We look forward to next year at the Global Launch Summit. And don't forget, book your dates and book your rooms in Mallorca for June 1st through the 3rd. Thank you guys, everybody. Thank you guys. We look forward to seeing you guys the rest of the journey.